if your work is very three-dimensional, it will hold its own weight to about 40 or maybe 50 millimetres. But anything more than that, you need to build up an armature before you begin to help hold the weight of the plaster. And these are some of the tools that I use to do this. One of the really handy ones, one I use most often, is these are screws and penny washers, various lengths. They're stainless steel, and I always use stainless steel for everything that's metal because it's not particularly more expensive than galvanised or anything else. It's readily available and it won't rust, which is important because the rust will blow the plaster if it gets wet, and it doesn't rot like wood would do. So I recommend you use stainless steel for everything. You don't want to put all that hard work in and then have it fail on you. So screws are really useful. If you want something a bit longer, then threaded rod with washers and a nut. This one's 8 millimetres, I think, possibly 10, which is really nice and sturdy. This one's 4 millimetres, which has got a little bit of bend to it. If you want something that bends reasonably well, 3 millimetres is the way to go. So they're fine. So it's strung between the screws, so you've screwed this into the surface, and you might find it useful to string between them some stainless steel wire, which you can cut with tin snips. And the other bit of metal work which is really useful and is horrible stuff is this mesh here, which I'm not going to touch with my bare hands. I've got some Kevlar gloves, and I always wear Kevlar gloves because they help to stop it piercing into your hands. It's vicious stuff. So here we have a mesh, stainless steel mesh, and it's apart from being horrible, it's really useful because you can bend it into all sorts of shapes, and it's very handy to make a substrate if you've got a complex or curved surface, and it's really handy to build up if you're going to try and make a very three-dimensional shape. But it is horrible stuff. Right, so with those things you can build up your armature, and then if you're working indoors you might want to wrap around the armature with something like this. This is cotton scrim, and it just sort of helps give a something for the plaster to hold on to, and you can just knot it around. You can get Hessian jute scrim. Because I have Hessian for putting on top of, keep protecting my plaster, I buy it by the bale, so I just cut lengths as I want. That's fine indoors. Outdoors you can't do that because it's far too likely to rot. So we've looked at the tin snips. So the only other things which might be useful, especially with a threaded rod, is something to fix it into the surface. The things I tend to use are a 2-part resin, which is a liquid. This one's slightly less liquid, is more sort of a gloopy stuff, and car body filler as well.